liberation means, and it has to do finally with personal motivation connected with the Absolute. We want Satchit Ananda, and you know, to get Satchit Ananda really means to enter into complete servitorship. And the Mayavadis and the Brahmavadis will not accept that they're servitors, because they're still clutching to the last shreds of their ego. And that's the hardest thing. They can't get rid of it. I am, you know, the center of the universe. It's really bizarre. They can actually think like that. They have a whole philosophy to justify it, but it's just filled with holes. But, you know, they can't see it, and the people that they're talking to generally can't see it. And it's because it's connected with the Absolute, it's powerful. So we don't even listen to it. We don't want to listen to it because it is powerful. It is connected with some aspect of reality, but it's a kind of a stunted understanding. So we don't want to get exposed to that kind of vibration, because it will, you know, it has a good chance of tricking us. So, you know, based on the authority and the instruction of our gurus, we avoid those things unless we need to read them and understand them for our preaching. So sometimes devotees read Shankaracharya's Shariyak Bhasya, his commentary on Vedanta Sutra, just to preach. Okay. So we are on number 21, and Srila Guru Maharaj's introductory statement: the astonishing indiscrimination in the aspiration for ultimate dissolution. Okay. Astonishing indiscrimination means they're not thinking. They're not discriminating. They have no idea to properly discriminate what is what. The aspiration for ultimate dissolution. Dissolution means to lose your self, to lose your identity. They want to just dissolve the identity and go to sleep. And Guru Maharaj is saying it's amazingly indiscriminate. In other words, they're not using their intelligence. So there's a quotation from the Kasachit, which is revered votary. Alas, my friend, my heart is simply astonished when I think of all those discriminating persons who aspire for self-extinction in perpetual, indiscriminate absolution. Revered votary. So alas, my friend, my heart is simply astonished when I think of all those, you know, apparently discriminating persons who aspire for self-extinction in perpetual, indiscriminate absolution. So why is it indiscriminate? Because it denies the very nature of our identity. And it doesn't think in terms of, you know, the reality of the Absolute. It's thinking in terms of selfish motivation. Otherwise, you know, how is it possible that the Absolute has made a situation where parts of himself come and get entangled and are tortured? It's like, it's completely not reasonable. Whereas the understanding of the Vaishnava is that the material world is a place where we've made this out of our own illusory ideas about you know, reality separate from Krishna's service. So this is like real discrimination and understanding, because the nature of the soul is naturally wanting existence beyond this. And wanting existence means me, means personal. Doesn't mean, you know, I'm going to melt into everything. How do I experience love and truth and beauty and all these things in just, you know, losing my identity? You know, you're there. You don't experience. So it's a big sleep. Before I fade into the big sleep. Okay. Maharaj? Okay, we'll do one more. Okay. What time are we ending? 7:30. 7:30. Okay. Okay. This is a long one. It's another quote from a votary. So, Guru Maharaj's summary. Liberation prays to become devotion's maidservant, and devotion apprehends the impurity of liberation's association. So the position of liberation has a person behind it, a personification behind it, and that person is praying to the devotee who's engaged in devotional service to please accept their, you know, their gift of freedom. And the devotees in devotion apprehend the impurity of liberation's association. It means they understand, understand in a way that they kind of withdraw from it because of the fact that it's impure. It's based on personal acquisition. Even though it's acquisition only of spiritual things and the people are completely detached from the temporary energy, it's still polluted. It's not pure. Okay, so read the verse. Who are you? It is I, liberation, mukti. Why have you suddenly come here? Oh Lord, because you are always absorbed in thoughts of Sri Krishna. I have been promoted to the position of your maidservant. Just keep a little distance from me. Oh, why are you so harsh upon an innocent person like me? This is liberation speaking. And the devotee has just said, you keep some distance from me. By the mere mention of your name, the sandalwood paste or gopichandan tilak that adorns my body and which represents my reputation as a devotee of the Lord will vanish altogether. You want to comment, Maharaj? Okay. So, you know, this is written by a votary. I don't know why, yeah, kasyachit. Ke sanchit. Yeah, there's like revered votary and votary. Go figure. Srila Maharaj calls one revered, which means very much honored, very much you know, humbly surrendered to, and the other one is a votary. It's like a devotee. The devotee is presenting what? The position of the devotee, whereas the revered votary is, I don't know, I can't tell the difference. Presenting, you know, liberation as something that's, you know, aspired after by people who are not thinking properly. They're not really understanding what is the, you know, what is the real nature of the absolute, because they just don't, they're determined not to surrender and not to be servants. That ultimately all this, sometimes they practice bhakti, sometimes they practice deity worship, sometimes they practice things that, you know, look like our devotion. But they think that devotion leads to their own personal liberation, and they leave it behind. They actually become greater than those deities that they're worshiping. They're really pretty crazy. So this is an exchange given by the votary. Who are you? It is I, liberation. Why "Why have you so suddenly come here?" asked the devotee. And the liberation says, "Oh Lord, you're always absorbed in thoughts of Krishna, so I want to serve you as your maidservant." Liberation is coming forward and saying, I will give you the sayuja, the liberation in the form of the transcendental, same form as the transcendental personality of Godhead. And the devotee responds, "Just keep a little distance from me." Because the devotee doesn't even want to get anything in relation to the Lord. If the Lord wants to give it, the devotee will lovingly accept. But outside of the Lord's direct intervention, giving something to the devotee, sometimes through his guru, or sometimes through his, in the Goloka, through his guide, in learning how to be like a cowherd boy, or learning how to be a parent, or there's guides that we learn from, and there are gurus that teach us in this world, and oftentimes we get mercy through them. Through them they bring us. I shouldn't say oftentimes, it's probably all the time. Maybe once in a million there's some direct mercy that comes down, but I think very rarely. So, the mere intention of your name, the gopi tilak that adorns my body and which represents my reputation as a devotee, will vanish altogether. So just by, coming in contact with liberation, with even the desire for liberation, the devotee doesn't want to have that contact, because it will give him a feeling of something that comes for his own experience. Oh, I'm liberated, I'm free. And that's the feeling that will come, and the devotee just doesn't want that, because it's not fully 100% devotion. At some point, if Krishna wants the devotee to become, to take a form in Goloka Vrindavan, the devotee will surrender and do that. Okay. So anyway, the point being, liberation is something that really is not wanted, not auspicious for Krishna consciousness, and is something that the devotees, ultimately, if you have purity in devotional service, you really want to avoid that kind of liberation, mukti. You want to just give for Krishna. So the next verse we'll read tomorrow, the adversity of being born as even Lord Brahma, but without Krishna consciousness. So now we're going to go into the aspects of, what comes as a result of, elevation in devotional life. We get elevated to different levels, ultimately to the level of Brahma. And we're told by our gurus that we'll be offered the position of Brahma. And, the devotees always decline. But will we decline? That depends on our, progress in devotional service and our having taken shelter of our gurus fully. Okay. So we are on Chaitanya Charitamrita. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Chaitanya Charitamrita Ki Jai. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Srila Bhakti Nirmala Acharya Maharaj Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswati Mat Acharya Brinda Ki Jai. Okay. So, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela, Chapter 4, Text 31. So, what's happening is, to just kind of summarize, is that Krishna is talking about the transcendental world and how the devotees enter Goloka manifesting a transcendental form that is the direct product of their devotion. So just like we have in the reflection, we have a material form that's a direct product of our lack of devotion. In the spiritual world, we have a form that's a product of our devotion, of our dedication. And so Kaviraj Goswami is quoting Krishna in this description, telling the devotees, he's writing this for devotees who are reading to understand the notion of where we're going and understand what it is to purely surrender, and understand that Krishna has descended to show these different pastimes for a reason, and that reason is to give us a chance to understand that there's a reality of wondrous ecstasy that's there in the spiritual world beyond anything that we have in the material world. You know, that's the crux of the problem in people approaching genuine spiritual experience, genuine Krishna consciousness, is that they don't have any experience of any alternative. You know, I should say we don't have any experience. We have very little experience of alternative, so we still take shelter of the temporary. But as we experience the alternate reality of the world of surrender to Krishna, then this world becomes less and less attractive. And specifically, to help us with that, becoming free from the attraction of the temporary world and becoming attached to this higher world, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has descended and given us the holy name. So Kaviraj Goswami is going in that direction. So right now he's speaking of the nature of devotion, and he just spoke in his last verse. Yeah, how Yogamaya influences the devotee in such a way that they forget that Krishna is God. And the gopis dance with him as the paramour, the cowherd boys play with him as a friend. And Krishna likes this. He likes to be in, he doesn't particularly, he's got, millions of Vaikuntha planets where in different forms, slightly different nature, he's accepting the devotion, the love and devotion and dedication based on his glories as the Supreme Personality, dressed in full regalia and so many things like that. He has all that experience, but in his heart, just as the example is given, just as a judge goes home to his family and plays with his children and does all the different activities of family life, he will prefer that to his judgeship. It's something that he looks forward to. So it's in a similar way, everything that happens in this world indicates the reality of the spiritual world. And eventually, as Vaishnavas surrendering to Paramhansa Vaishnavas, pure Vaishnavas, we will begin to see that reality everywhere. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur tells us this, that matter is the index of spirit. That means that whatever you see in this world indicates the spiritual world. It's just we can't see it. But as we develop, we'll see more and more the signs along the way as we grow. The signs will come showing us what our entanglement in the material world is. So this is text 31. Pure attachment will unite us even at the expense of moral and religious duties, dharma. Destiny will sometimes bring us together and sometimes separate us. So the Bangla. Dharma chadi rage dure koriye milana. Kabu mile, kabu na mile, daivera gatana. So dharma, chadi, giving up religious customs, rage, in love, okay. Karai milana, they meet me, giving up this, the surroundings of external religious duties. This is the influence of Yoga Maya in the spiritual world. Here in the material world, we have the influence of Mahamaya, and people tend towards this. Some people who are strictly within the parameters of religious duty don't do like that, but people who are have some degree of like independence and degree of overwhelming desire, break the bounds of religious principles and engage in paramour type activities, which are like here the lowest thing is that kind of behavior, and in the transcendental world the highest thing is that. So some people live in that kind of low experience without any bounds of religious duties, and many people live within the bounds of religious duties, sometimes breaking it. But in the spiritual world, that similar circumstance, you can't really understand it or perceive it properly, but it's we're told it's like that. They have a sense of religious duty, an obligation to follow, like here, the wife follows the husband and doesn't break her vows with the husband, and so there it's also like that. And it's very strong, but the gopis are willing to risk everything. They're risking their whole existence. Basically, they live in a circumstance, surrounded by moral and religious obligations in a particular house with a particular husband and children and all these things, and they actually give it all up for Krishna. So this kind of sacrifice and surrender is, we can kind of imagine what it is by the idea of giving up all of our feelings and affection for our family and people who we have a deep connection with, to go away from that. Why? Because there's a higher sense of loving relation. That's what the sacrifice of the gopis is. So it's hard to imagine in this world, and in fact, generally people who are with family and with obligations connected with family, like children and so on, are not advised to take the renounced order. Generally, they have to complete those duties and then take the renounced order, or, like in some cases, take the renounced order without ever having family-type connections. Okay, so Srila Prabhupada tells us to celebrate this transcendental enthusiasm, there is need of a sentiment of separation between the lover and the beloved. In the condition of material tribulation, no one wants the pangs of separation. So he's comparing the material world and separation in the material world. This is the last sentence that Krishna speaks. Destiny will sometimes bring us together and sometimes separate us. But in the transcendental form, the very same separation, being absolute in its nature, strengthens the ties of love and enhances the desire of the lover and the beloved to meet. This period of separation, evaluated transcendentally, is more relishable than the actual meeting, which lacks the feelings of increasing anticipation because the lover and the beloved are both present. So Srila Prabhupada telling us clearly that this idea of separation, while, in one level, particularly in the material world, it brings, a lot of suffering. But it also, in the material world, there's so many different sayings in different languages about how, separation brings about higher affection. To be apart from someone would become more and more affectionate, even in this world. So this is a reflection of what the spiritual reality is, that Krishna goes away, and there's pain. But within that pain, there's increasing anticipation and desire for that, that meeting, that connection. Milana is the word which is used here and used constantly, meaning the meeting of the highest devotees with Krishna in transcendental paramour love. So the lover and beloved separated, there's greater growing anticipation than when they're together. When they're both present, there's less feeling of that. There's a feeling of wondrous, connection and devotion, but ultimately, it's not the same as separation. So, it's said clearly that separation is higher than union. And it's very important. We can't really clearly perceive the necessity of separation and what that is in a transcendental meaning. We can get some sense of it just by our experience in this world. But, to understand separation is more than union, is, a principal point of our Rupanuga Sampradaya. That, it's a crucial point. That separation that comes by being away from Krishna, which Krishna does to us by his own will, that's very wondrous and amazing. And it makes us more and more devoted and dedicated, and the love increases more and more under the influence of Yoga Maya. So Krishna likes to do that. He likes to go away. And sometimes the gopis will run after him. Srimati Radharani runs after him, sometimes finds him alone, and all the other gopis are still searching. And, all these different pastimes, some of which are described in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, to give us some sense of the reality of spiritual existence. Anything, Maharaj?
No, Maharaj.
You sure? Please.
There is nothing to add.
It's just really high stuff that Kaviraj Goswami is giving us. Okay, so we have some time. So the next text, 32. I shall taste the essence of all these rasas, and in this way I shall favor all the devotees. There's no purport, no explanation. E soba rasa niryasa koriba asvada. E dwari koriba saba bhaktere prasada. So I shall taste the essence of all these rasas. Sabha, rasa, niryasa. The essence of rasa, niryasa, rasa, nirasa, the essence of rasa, sabha, all. Jai Mahaprabhu, Jai Radha Giriraj Ju Ki Jai. So asvada, I shall taste. And then, in this way, I shall do kariba for sabha bhaktere, all the devotees, prasada, I shall give them favor. In this way, by tasting he says the essence of all rasas, rasa niryasa, and that means that the highest rasa, madhurya rasa, contains all the others. It's the essence of all the rasas. So all the rasas look towards that highest essence of rasas in the Madhurya Lila. And even though it's in the spiritual world, it's a chinta beda tattva, the devotees in a particular rasa feel that their rasa is the best and the highest, but at the same time, in their inner hearts, they revere the position of the gopis, and feel gopis are very fortunate to be in that position. So simultaneously, one and different. They feel that their rasa is the best, but at the same time, in their hearts, they feel high regard for the gopis' position, and realize that they're the highest, best devotees. So that's the transcendental world, and Krishna is saying that in this way, I directly relish all the rasas. Now, simultaneously, Krishna does, engage in rasa with, the parents. There may be, multi-billions of parents that Krishna is dealing with, and billions of cowherd boys. But they're always, alone with Krishna. They're thinking, yes, he's my son only. And the cowherd boys are thinking in a group of 6 or 8 or something, yes, this is, Krishna is with us only. They feel like that. And imagine, if you just imagine the amount of living entities in this world, what to speak of all the worlds combined, and this is only the material world. Who can know? I mean, you just look outside at the grass. It's just, even this garden around this building, it's inconceivable, the number of living entities. And I told Gurudev, one time when I lived in the mountains in California, we drove very high up and stopped at a place where we could look out and see what was below us. And when I looked out, I saw, all the way to the borders of vision, trees. There were like millions of trees. And it was completely mind-boggling to consider that each one is a soul. And they're like in that tree body for who knows how long. And so many. And I told Gurudev, it's just, well, I didn't know what to think, Gurudev. It's just, I can't understand, or, in my own mind, in a way, it's hard to accept that all these living beings are there. And he just looked at me, his eyes got really big and said, yes, it is achintya. So that's our position. We can't comprehend how this is all happening.
Maharaj?
Yes.
Which factors predestine the spiritual adhikara of jiva?
Which factors predestine?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think there's necessarily a predestination. I mean, everything depends on Krishna's nature and the free will of the devotee. So because that free will and that Krishna's desire is constantly in motion, it's difficult to determine, I think, where the final destination is going to be. We know that our line is in the direction of the manjaris and service to the servants of the servants of the servants of Radha and Krishna in their transcendental Madhurya Lila pastimes. But we also know that sometimes those devotees in that line become in other rasas, cowherd boys and they take different positions according to their own nature at that particular point in their development of devotional life. Now, it may be that internally there's some nature there that's already there, but I think just because of the very nature of bhakti, how it's constantly growing and changing, it's hard to clearly determine what our position is ultimately going to be. So you can't really say it's predestined, but to understand the nature of our deep self is almost impossible to conceive of right now. And Krishna says in the Gita, you can't even understand how the karmic laws work that have entangled us. So what to speak of our inner position? But as far as I understand, it's like that. You want to say something, Maharaj?
Maharaj, say something.
Something about what?
About what do you think? What predestines the destination of spiritual adhikar of a jiva soul? Because we see there's such a variety of rasas, the spiritual world is so big, there's so many rasas. And then the jiva comes from Brahma Tatashta Shakti, and all the same, but then we see that they end up in different destinations, in different rasas. So what is the factor
We originate from uncertain layer of reality, which is called the border between rupa and anti-rupa. So this is called tatashta, or uncertain. So we jump down into the ocean of action, or sometimes they call it material world. It's ocean of action, where by our action we collect and attain certain tendencies, certain inclinations, and in this way we develop, they call it rupa, or combination of thoughts, tendencies, inclinations, modes of action. So it's like combination. Sometimes they call it ahankara, something that differs us from others. This is called rupa or ahankara. And each and every one has his particular feature, ahankara. And that goes deep in our nature. And when we realize that after many phases of existence in this world of action, when we realize that actually we are not actors, but we are observers, that we don't act, we only observe what surrounding nature does. That is the point of liberation. We liberate ourselves, or with the mercy of higher entities, we become liberated from action. But that tendencies or individuality that was impregnated to us during that phase of existence still remains, and that forms our nature, what we do like, what we don't like. And when being liberated, we, like a bubble, when a bubble becomes a light, or lagna, no weightless. It streams up to the surface, and then this bubble becomes liberated in the air. So it loses its form. The bubble loses its form. So same way we go up and up and up, slowly, slowly, slowly. But if we happen to have the mercy of our gurus in any Vaishnava Sampradaya, then we don't lose the form. We don't lose the bubble form or color of that bubble. We don't lose, but we are gently taking up, remaining this form. We are taken up into that air reality, so to say, which is called Vaikuntha. So our tendencies remain, and some bubbles, some souls, they like to be mere servants. Some want to have a closer relations with the center, which is friendly or conjugal or parental or mixture between them. It's not like vivid borders between rasas. It's gradual, it's gradient. Like Krishna's parents, or parents of Dasaratha, or parents of Rama, Dasaratha, and his wife, they are parents of the Lord. But the uncle of the Lord, he is also kind of parent, but he is more friendly. So there is a gradual distinction between rasas. But tendency is there, but it's all, of course, it's corrected. The correction is there. Yeah. It's like this.
And before Jiva acquires Ahankar, are they all same, or there is
same.
differentiation?
Absolutely same. There is no difference. It's like computers when they just manufactured in company. It's in conveyor. They're all the same. There is no at all difference. The only difference is the serial number, which is virtual. If you remove the label, they're all the same. But once they start to be used by a user, then the difference appear. Someone install Windows 7, someone install Windows 10, or add some more program, or deactivate this service or activate another service. So according to his necessity, each user makes the computer different. So we are all produced the same, but then we start to use our identity according to our likes, dislikes.
But Maharaj, there's no maths?
Well, computer. Yeah, well, okay, the idea of computer is the same, but then the idea is materialized in Macs, PCs, whatever. But the idea is the same.
The jiva is the idea.
The jiva is idea. Jiva is the idea in Lord's reasoning. The idea. He says, I want someone be amused by me. I want someone adore or be I want to be praised by someone, and I want the big number of those who praise me, because I am so good, as Mr. President of the United States says. So Krishna says, I am adored by my close devotees, but I want to be, but it's not enough. And devotees always bug Krishna, tells them, look, even having 1 billion of tongues, we cannot praise you. And Krishna thinks, well, maybe we need more number of praisers. Okay, so then the idea of jiva, or individual consciousness, appears in his state of reasoning. I need more those who admire me, who praise me. So that idea is formed into many differentials, many numbers, and this we are, who are supposed to praise him, but we, as often happens, we don't follow our designation. We are designed to praise someone who designed us, but and he gave us the free will. So by using that free will, we say, or we think, I rather do something else. I'd rather do something else. The example may be like the poetry school. So the king established the poetry school, the panel of poets who are designed to praise him. So he likes. He is not that much poetic. So he wants, or he is poetic, Krishna is poetic, but he likes someone praise him in poetry words. Why? He thinks, why should I praise myself? Why should I bother to praise myself? So better someone else does it. So he established the poetry school. But the poets, after learning how to compose poetry, they started praising themselves or each other. So this we are. We started doing pratishta, or self-establishment, self-confirmation, self-praise.
Or extended self.
Huh?
Or extended self.
Exactly. So but our and then the dharma, or duty, the conception of duty appears. We are dutiful to the one who designed us, but we rebelled. We say, no, we have some other duty. And that's fine. Actually, that's fine. We exercise our freedom. It's not a sin.
Jiva Goswami gives the definition of Bhagavan, saying the one who we cannot resist by loving. So by being away, by hiding himself, he doesn't allow his devotees to be, expressing the love. Because one cannot...
Say again, he doesn't allow?
Not doesn't allow, but he by withdrawing himself, he doesn't let devotees to be fascinated by the beauty, because he is beauty himself. So if the one who has some perception of the beauty, he can say Jai, because that would be a real thing, because it's like, but because he's distant, he doesn't let.
The reason to praise someone may be different. Someone praises another person because he is great, and another praises because he is beautiful, another praises because he is merciful. So the reasoning why we praise someone else may be different. So Krishna wants to be loved, actually. And he withdraws himself. Yes, exactly.
I was thinking that that there's Mahamaya in this world that creates or allows the illusion to be produced through our own consciousness, our own distorted consciousness, and then above Vaikuntha, it's said that Yogamaya is there to give the illusion that Krishna is not God, and they play with Krishna. So there's those two things are there that delude the living entity first in the material world, and then leaving the material world and passing beyond the idea of awe and reverence in service to God or Krishna. Then generally it's a Vishnu form, I think. And then going into Goloka, coming under Yogamaya. And somehow or other, Yogamaya is a product, I believe, coming from Srimati Radharani. But it's completely separate, along with Lord Balaram, that is produced. And so the material world is produced by Mahamaya, which is also kind of functioning in a separated way, and controls the living entities in the material world until the living entities begin to dedicate themselves to Krishna again. And in that way, Maya releases her control. I think I'm just saying that's a factor in the, that overwhelms us in the material world. This force of Mahamaya comes based on our own consciousness and covers everything. Did that expand on your answer or no? Or on your question rather?
But when I say praising the Lord, like you said that there's different reasons to do that, but I'm saying that the one who meets beauty itself, he doesn't have a reason like I'm going to praise. It's the reaction of having a connection with beauty. So until and unless the jiva meets the beauty, all before that is attempt to glorify something. But the real praise or real excitement is only through some kind of connection.
Yes, sure.
And so by keeping himself away, he doesn't let jiva to
Yes, actually it's in accordance with philosophy of Immanuel Kant. He says we don't perceive things. We perceive what these things want us to perceive. So Krishna, he, according to the level of jiva's capacity to perceive him, he gives himself by portions. As Sridhar says, the knowledge is given by portions, by quants.
And what?
And because if Krishna,
Oops. Sorry, the time is gone.
oh,
We're
okay,
really over. Saraswati's going to be angry with us.
okay,
Sorry, Maharaj.
it's all right.
I just saw it's 15 minutes over, my gosh. Just went poof, suddenly it's gone.
Mm.
So maybe you guys continue your conversation outside, but we have to end, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Please forgive me. I'm always making offense, what can I do? Okay. Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai. Shri Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Bhakti Rakha Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Srila Bhakti Nirmala Acharya Maharaj ki jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswati Acharya Brinda ki jai. Sripad Bhakti